People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, that's right. I'm back. Recording on one of the hottest days of the year in England. Sweet Jesus. In a couple of days from now, it's meant to get to like 25 goddamn degrees. I can't handle this. So if I sound like I'm dying, it's because I am, alright? Anywho, today I'm going to be talking about a wee little horror game that not many people have been talking about, none that I know of. And the game is called Cry of Fear. I do love this game to bits. Although it is definitely flawed in areas, it was absolutely worth my time. One thing that I would like to address for anyone who watched the live streams I did of the game, I actually played like probably about 80% of the game in the wrong video settings. I had never enabled widescreen, so the footage was a bit messed up. I'm sorry, fellas.
Well, at least it ain't your job.
I was planning on using the streams as background footage for this video, but I guess that's out the window now. So yeah, very embarrassing. I was not accustomed to having to do that. It's been a while since I've played an old game where you had to actually enable widescreen. But hey, if Pyrocynical is allowed to make a point of the game's double tap dodge mechanic screwing with the parkour, whilst there being an option to disable it in the advanced settings, and I can get a pass, okay?
So you'll probably end up tapping your keys to adjust yourself, meaning you'll accidentally dodge and fall to your death. What the fuck was that? I feel this could have been easily fixed by, I don't know, you hold a key to dodge, like maybe shift or something, so then the game would know whether you're trying to make a slight adjustment or take a leap of faith.
Are you stupid or something?
Yeah, that's right.
Stupid sons of bitches!
So since that live stream is a bit shitty to watch, I've done another playthrough, one for the footage and two to get the game fresh in my head because it's been a while. I'll only use the messed up footage if I wanted to show something specific, like my reaction to certain things, that sort of thing. Alright, I'm going to start talking about the game properly now, getting into the story and the spoilers and all that shit. So if you somehow haven't played this 13-year-old game, although neither did I until a few months ago, stop watching now, go play it, it's free. You have been warned. Alright, Cry of Fear. I'd like to share my quite strange approach with this game. Good few years ago now, I watched that big review made by YouTuber Pyrocynical. It was very spoiler heavy, which is something that I don't usually watch on the off chance that I actually play the game myself, but at that time I was still on PlayStation, so I figured I'd never play it. It was a great video. It goes in depth on fucking everything. You've probably watched it if you're watching my video. A couple years later I did play a little bit of the game, but I quickly dropped it because I'm a massive pussy when it comes to horror games, I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's so narrow.
So when I actually played the game properly a few months ago on the live streams, it wasn't a total blind playthrough like most people who've played it. But at the same time, I did actually forget most of the gameplay scenarios, such as like the enemies and the bosses, that sort of thing. Like when I fought the mace boss, for example, I really fucked that one up. So it was really interesting. The main thing I remembered was the story, and even then, There was so much more I learned about it after playing the game several times, not just on the stream, but I did quite a few playthroughs afterwards. So to anyone out there who's maybe watched Pyrocynical's video but not played the game themselves, there is still so much value to be had. I really, really recommend it. And I think that's a testament to how well made the story is, I think. Speaking of the story, let's talk about it. I definitely have to say that I really love the story the game tells. I definitely don't think it's for everyone since it isn't the happiest story ever, but I think it's really, really good and well made. Follows this guy called Simon.
You look like Eminem, you stupid cunt.
Navigating this nightmarish world, Sweden specifically, and as the player you're right there with him, wondering what everything's about. You go through these hellish environments completely by yourself, defeating all sorts of horrifying enemies and bosses. My personal favourite is this big guy, whose name is apparently just taller. I just call him the 6'5" beast since you're flying and curb stomps you.
6'5", look at me, I'm like a beast.
It's never happened in my playthrough though, because I'm just that good. As you'll be going through these creepy ass places killing shit like Mr. 6'5" beast over here, completing all of the chapters, you start getting little pieces to the puzzle, seeing visions of another version of Simon, getting glimpses as to what's brought him here. Sometimes even in a wheelchair, very sickly looking. You also see him with a doctor who you encounter throughout the game, even killing him near the end. You get to see who he says is his only friend, Sophie, who also gets near-nared. We even see a vision of Simon confessing his love to her in a, let's say, a very forward way.
Sophie.
Simon, let me go.
I love you, Sophie.
I have to leave. Please.
I fucking love
Just
you.
let me go, Simon.
Like, damn, I think asking her for her gamer tag would have been a better shout. At the end of the game, after killing Simon's doctor called Pernell, you can get 2 different boss fights depending on the choices you made in the game. It is very linear, but it's still choices. Those choices being fleeing or fighting the boss that spawns after Sophie dies, and choosing to trust the doctor by giving him the gun. These are a little weird, but I'll explain everything in a bit, I promise. The boss that I got was the Book Simon boss fight, because I wasn't about to get the bad ending, where you play as the sick Simon you saw in the visions throughout the game, and is actually the real version of Simon. Because yeah, the whole game wasn't real at all. Well, not quite anyway. See, there's a whole lot to Simon than you might think at the start of the game. As I said before, you do start getting glimpses into it, but you don't really fully understand it all until the game's over. Simon was already a very depressed guy, barely keeping himself together, which is something you gather from the intro. And one day, as we saw, he confesses his feelings towards his friend Sophie, which we see about a good bit into the game, I'd say. And we all know how that went. But somehow something even worse happens to Simon. I'm not too sure if this happens on the same day as Sophie's rejection of him, but at some point after that, Simon sees a guy on the street who looks hurt or something. Naturally, Simon goes to help him when a car starts up and speeds into him, crushing his legs and permanently paralysing him from the waist down. Which is why some of the visions you see are of Simon in a wheelchair. Looking way more scruffy than the Simon that we play as. All this trauma at once just absolutely broke him. And he wasn't able to heal from it. Not immediately anyway. He got assigned to a guy called Dr. Pernell, who only wanted the best for him. Well, as far as we know anyway. But Simon never trusted him. completely refused to open up to him. And from what he says, only wanted to have medications to help him feel better instead of working through anything. After a while of trying the usual stuff, Purnell tries something different in an attempt to help Simon.
Simon, the pills by itself won't make you feel better. You have to do something more than that. I recommend that you try a new modern treatment called cognitive therapy.
What's that?
Well, it's a set of exercises you do. A way to forget the past, all the bad memories and anxiety you have. Are you interested in books, Simon?
I don't know. Why?
Alright. I just wanted to find out. Because I want you to try out something. I want you to write a book. A book about how you feel. Do you think you can do that?
I guess so. I can try.
And this totally backfires. And we see it firsthand. The entire game takes place inside of Simon's book, which, knowing that, makes so many things have a new meaning. So much in fact that a guy by the name of The Bait C, if I'm saying that right, probably not, on YouTube made a 40-minute video talking about just that. It's very well made, you should definitely check it out. So I'm not gonna just regurgitate everything because that's lame and this video would be way longer than it need to. But I'll point out specific ones that I find interesting, and even one that I thought of myself. One of the big ones for me are the nightmare sequences. On your first playthrough, or even just someone watching the game, it's easy to just see this as generic, spooky, early 2010s sequence where you're walking down a hallway and these spooky things come out, and there's like blood on the walls and writing and stuff. But looking back, it makes way more sense. I think this is definitely Simon's mind and his thoughts getting way too overwhelming. And he has like an episode or something while still writing the book, which you can even see during one of the last sequences, with the writing that you can see on the walls probably being something that he's writing inside the book. The enemies are also a big one, with each of them representing Simon's inner turmoil, I'd say. A bit similar to Silent Hill 2's enemies. If you know, you know. One in particular being these freaky looking things. These guys appear in the section where you lose your primary light source in the phone that you carry around with you, and you use these flares to see instead. You can hear them like hyperventilating and panting, which is creepy on its own. But then the name of the creature, which isn't said in the game, but it has a name in the files and all that stuff, the creature is called Citalopram, a name of an antidepressant which Simon presumably got prescribed, with one of the most serious side effects being the extremely fast breathing, which, as a side note, reading through the symptoms on the NHS website, it does say to call 999 if you experience that symptom, so I would just like to put that out there. Another symptom is feeling drowsy or dizzy, which I think is represented by the environment here, like really closed in, barely being able to see. There's even links to be made with the bosses in the game, like the first one, called Sora, literally cutting off Simon's legs as he kills you. There isn't really any ties for the Mace boss that I could think of, but the Dr. Purnell boss fight and the Simon boss fight are pretty self-explanatory, I'd say. But one thing I have to talk about is what happens after the Purnell fight. At this point, you just navigate a scary as fuck asylum, and Simon has overcome a huge obstacle by defeating Purnell, whether or not you trusted him, Simon either like kills that part of him that he didn't trust, or that guy, the Batesy, said he might have like fantasized about killing him in the book, which, having a double meaning from the same boss fight, I think that's genius. Anywho, after killing him, he has a truly calming moment. As you leave the boss fight room, I think it's in an attic or something, go through the door, and there's a window right next to you. And you can see the sun coming up. Birds are singing, which at this point in the game, it's literally just been dark the whole time. Like, whether you're outside or not, it's just been nighttime. So you see this, and it's so special. After you leave the asylum, you make your way through some doors, I think, and you come out onto this little lake and some gorgeous scenery. Well, as gorgeous as these graphics could be, and the most beautiful soundtrack starts playing. It's really, really nice to listen to. This little section here is something I've been thinking about a lot after finishing my playthrough, and the conclusion I've came to is, without getting too personal, as someone who's struggled a lot with their mental health, I can definitely say that after an intense, like, depressive spell, let's say, I always find myself having a big sort of euphoria type of moment where I'm like, you know what, everything's going to be alright. This is something I've seen other people talk about too, and I think that's what this section represents. This is Simon's everything is going to be okay moment, and it illustrates that perfectly, in my opinion. But this being a horror game, of course it's going to take that away from you. After a little bit of going through the sewers and going through the neighbourhood that Simon presumably grew up in, as his mum lives there, you wind up at the end of the game, which I started talking about, but I had to explain the lore first, I'm sorry. Here you'll either kill the book Simon if you trusted the doctor and killed Carcass, or you'll fight the real Simon if you fail to trust the doctor or kill Carcass. The real Simon boss fight that leads to the bad endings has way more depth to it, so I'll talk about that first. After entering Simon's room, he picks up his book and sees a vision of the real Simon shooting himself. And then you're in the final nightmare sequence, playing out Simon's last thoughts before he ended it. This is easily the most terrifying of the nightmare sequences for me, especially the soundtrack. Just distorted screams, and there is speech, but it's hard to make out what he says. The whole environment starts twisting and bending like it's a goddamn, I don't know, like a Nightmare on Elm Street film or something. Even the names of the save points are fucked up. The boss itself is fairly straightforward. Some enemies spawning with one of them having like a valve for a head. And you gotta use that on each corner of the room. Doing so, you open the cage that the real Simon is in, as he's been attacking you with goddamn telekinesis, Silver Hedgehog type powers. You run up to him and you have to like keep clicking the mouse to like choke him out, which also drains your health bar at the same time as his. After you finish choking him out, you can hear the gunshot from the vision that you saw, signaling that this boss fight was Simon's last struggle fighting with his own mind. There are 3 outcomes of this boss fight, Simon dying in all 3. Simon will end up killing Sophie if he failed to kill the manifestation of his hatred, represented by the boss fight Carcass. And Purnell gets killed if Simon failed to trust him, with the worst outcome being all of them dying. Simon has a monologue that he writes after each ending, and naturally the ones where either Purnell dies or Sophie dies are sad, don't get me wrong, but the speech that he has in the worst ending that you can get, where him, Purnell and Sophie die, it really stuck with me. Simon being genuinely scary and full of anger. In it, he says that he took more pills than he usually does, which is likely the citalopram, which may have caused the entire nightmare sequence. Totally delusional. He talks about how the pills showed him how fake Sophie and Purnell were. How they were like totally against him, treating him like shit and all that. And never really cared about him. He even expresses interest in killing more people, but he says he wasn't able to because of his disability. I genuinely cannot imagine what it'd be like doing a blind playthrough and getting this ending. Just an absolutely spine-chilling performance from the actor here.
To whoever is reading this, I hope my dead body will haunt you forever. Have fun scraping my brains off the wall. Fuck you!
However, the devs couldn't just leave us with these bad endings. Like fuck. So they hooked us up with a true ending.
Thank you, kind sir.
If the player kills Carcass and trusts Dr. Purnell, Book Simon interrupts the real Simon before he does anything. And you, now playing as the real Simon in the wheelchair, are tasked with chasing down the faker.
I found you! Faker! Faker? I think you're the faker
Simon.
around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh? You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you
faker.
eat those words!
You go through a hallway similar to the nightmares in the book, shooting Book Simon occasionally as he jumps out of behind each corner. It's not as much of a traditional boss fight as the other one, but it's definitely a cool set piece. After going through the hallway shooting Simon for a bit, you end up in a completely dark room where the Book Simon charges you in the dark with a sledgehammer and a flare. And after killing him, Simon finally awakens from his psychotic episode, finding out they'd shot 2 police officers that were trying to get into his apartment whilst fighting the Book Simon in his mind. But hey, better kill a few NPCs to get the better ending, right? In the monologue, Simon explains that he finished his book and now has to spend the rest of his life in a mental hospital since he freaking opened fire on those 2 cops. But he sounds way different in this ending compared to the worst one. He has a really positive outlook on everything. He talks about how fortunate he is that Purnell is helping him, and how he's now really happy for Sophie, who has made a new friend, as he says. It's so bizarre that even though 2 people still get killed here, it's still really heartwarming, you know? It's just such an emotional ending. Alright, that's all I wanted to say for the story. Just a quick, give my quick thought on it sort of thing. Next, I want to give my thoughts on the gameplay, music, and some criticisms I have with the game, which I do have quite a few of, let me tell you. The gameplay itself is definitely a step up from the likes of Silent Hill, which the game is obviously inspired by. It isn't quite Resident Evil since it does run on the Half-Life 1 engine, but definitely isn't as bare bones as Silent Hill was, where you can just run past everything with ease. The first weapon that you get right at the beginning is a little switchblade, and you gotta run up to an enemy and dodge back to avoid damage. It is quite repetitive, but you do get guns later on. Speaking of those guns, honestly, I think the game handles them quite poorly. I know Pyrocynical said this in his video, and I don't mean to just copy what he's saying like a fucking parrot, but they just don't give you enough ammo for the guns in this game, man. And I don't mean it in the sense of it's only giving me tiny bits because it's a horror game. No, the game constantly gives you good pistol ammo on normal difficulty, and not just through finding it on the floor either. Even one of the enemy types will drop a full magazine when killed. But with the shotgun, rifle and Leon Kennedy's burst pistol, you will get some ammo when you first find them, and then they'll only give you more rounds for it after a whole hour of playing, while you'll have found a couple dozen pistol mags in that time. It's just so strange. With the incredibly limited storage space, which you can't upgrade or get like a magic box to put things in, it usually isn't worth it to keep any guns beside the pistol, as you'll be needing the space for key items to make progress. So then you end up missing out on the different weapons. This is definitely something I'd like to see change if the game ever got a remake or anything. The bosses in the game aren't all that bad either. Except for maybe Carcass, who's just a big fucking bullet sponge. Very, very not interesting to fight. I've already talked about the book and real Simon bosses, but I'll quickly talk about the other ones now. Saw is the first boss in the game, so he's pretty straightforward. He does insta-kill you with his chainsaw, as I said earlier, so you gotta be really quick with hitting him. Hit him enough and he'll get stunned, showing a very obvious weak spot on his back, and then you just keep stunning him, hitting the weak spot. Piss easy. The next one, called Mace, I think is definitely my favourite in terms of the first time player experience. As I said earlier in the video, I did forget how this boss worked when I ended up replaying it, so I just kept trying to shoot him, which doesn't actually do any damage. Then I noticed valves in each corner of the room and subsequently got cornered trying to turn one of them.
What a fucking loser.
But even knowing what to do, it can still be scary since you don't know how far he is from you. It's not like an amazing boss or anything, but it's still a cool experience. It's definitely better than the doctor fight though, I'll tell you. That just boiled down to him just shooting him whenever he popped out of cover, as rushing him results in an instant kill. Don't like this one, to be honest with you. Especially those enemies with guns that ambush you. Fuck those guys. One thing I definitely do want to talk about is the platforming and / parkouring. You do it quite a bit throughout the game. It is quite janky and definitely frustrating on your first go. I don't necessarily even think they could make like amazing platforming sections on the Gold Source engine. For most situations it isn't too big of a deal. You might lose a little bit of health if you screw up a jump, but it was never like the end of the world or anything. Then there's the crash train platforming. Lord help me. Before you reach the abandoned asylum section, Simon hops on a train which then crashes and is hanging off the end of a bridge. You stand up with a save point right in front of you, thank God for that, and you start to jump up. Then out of nowhere, some intense arse music starts playing and you see that the train starts to fall. At this point I was panicking, I'll tell you. Maybe the most sheer panic I felt in the whole playthrough. You keep jumping, maybe get into a jump that you get stuck on and you have to try it a few times. But you get it and you keep going. Then you realise, oh shit, I'm out of stamina. So you keep trying to go up this claustrophobic ass train with this heartbeat in the music playing Get Fast. You try and jump on these small poles, but you can't because you're out of stamina. You end up missing and falling down. You're all out of luck and the train drops. Dead. I did manage to do this on my second try, but I did have to quit the stream as I was really burnt out and there wasn't a save right after it. So the next stream I had to do it again and died another time.
Oh my god! I keep dying! Stop killing me! Who do you think you are? Who the fuck?
This whole part was just so frustrating. I was rarely able to tell where I could and couldn't jump to. And Simon running out of stamina did not help. Like, could someone give Simon a gym membership or something? His stamina from sprinting or running just runs out so fast. You could make the argument that it being difficult is part of the experience, but I feel like there could be a way to do that without all of the jank, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The little parkour section before the real Simon boss fight was quite annoying too, but that one is at least avoidable if you don't get any of the bad endings. Now, I gotta talk about the music and the atmosphere in this game because, good god, they cooked so hard with it. It's honestly on par with Silent Hill 1 and 2's soundtrack for me, maybe just a little bit behind. I have found it hard to pinpoint exactly why I think the atmosphere is so good, but I think quite a lot of it is to do with the graphics, which is weird to say since the graphics aren't that well aged compared to something like Assassin's Creed 2 that has like a really good, unique style. It's them early 2010s photorealistic graphics combined with the real environments like Stockholm, the apartments, the subways, even the asylum, that really creates something special. You just feel so alone while playing. Especially with the main sounds just being electrical buzzing, the wind, even just Simon's walking. I'm quite curious if, say, the game got some sort of a remaster or a remake, would it be able to recreate this feeling? I'm really not sure. Moving on. The actual songs in the game and the places they are used are just amazing to me. I'll pick out a few of my favourite examples. Biggest one has to be the college. You come here to get a fuse and it's all warm, no enemies, just peaceful. Then you take out the fuse and, if you're me, get the shite scared out of you from this chud hiding in the closet.
Like interact with this, I guess. Right?
And this horrifying music starts playing. Distorted screams and this tribal-like drums take centre stage as you're left fighting monsters in the dark. Having to put away your lighter alone was so damn stressful here. It does happen throughout the game, but it's never as important as it is here. Naturally, you'd think, hey, let's just quickly get out the way we came in. Well, sorry, bud, but that door's now locked. Get pranked. So now you gotta use this key somewhere. Oh, you full on inventory because we just gave you a new weapon like 3 minutes ago? Guess you're gonna have to drop it and come back for it later. So that's exactly what I did. And I progressed as normal. Used the key to unlock a room which had the real escape key in. And as I walked up to the exit door, the music actually faded away. Mint. But I get my weapon back. And this silence terrified me even more, to be honest with you. I was so hesitant on even going for the gun, even though it was just in the next room. I'm not too sure if this was intentional, but damn, it was so effective. It's hard to feel it without experiencing it yourself, and especially if you're just watching me with my face cam. So I'm going to show you the difference in a newly recorded clip. Here is the same place with and without the music.
I want to apologise to everyone I've called a donkey. It wasn't fair to you, and more importantly, it wasn't fair to the donkeys.
Honestly, hats off to the developers and everyone involved with making this section. Absolute geniuses. There are plenty more examples of your traditional scary soundtrack, like the ones in the nightmare sequences, but that college one has to be my favourite. Cry also has some laid back chill songs, like the song called Brandon, which I love to death. I do use that song quite often as background music for my videos. It's just such a relaxing song. It's really great. I love it. Final thing I want to talk about is some criticisms that I couldn't really fit anywhere else in the video. I'll start with something that I can't be too mad at since it's a free game made by an extremely small team, and that is the jank and the glitchiness of the game. Apparently, according to like speedrunners and the like, after an hour or so of playtime the game just starts to break down basically. And I'm not talking about hitting some sick dance moves, I'm talking like an old car's engine just giving out or something. The game could just crash after you go through a door. You can get stuck, and a strange thing happened to me at the asylum section. There's this telescope that you're meant to look through and see a number being held up, which is like a password for a door, and it's actually being held up by who I presume is sick Simon, since he's wearing the orange hoodie. But whenever I looked through, the telescope would just turn white, and when I moved my mouse to try and look around and then exited, the whole environment turned with it. I really don't understand how this happened. The sick Simon also disappeared, so we couldn't actually get a good look at the code. Fortunately, Eddie, who was watching me play the game, went back through the stream and zoomed in on the code. For the second or two I was able to see it, and was able to progress. Honestly, I thought the environment, like moving around when I looked through the telescope, I thought that was like part of a puzzle or something, but it was not. There's other bits of jankiness as well, like the dialogue and the cutscenes can be so goddamn quiet. Like compared to everything else, it's sometimes so hard to hear what Simon or any of the other characters are actually saying. But hey, at least there's subtitles.
Thinking. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that too.
What the f*** are you saying?
The biggest complaint I have though, and same with Eddie as well, is it has to be the level design. It isn't too bad in your first hour or two, but shit really hits the fan like halfway through the game. After you finish the college section, you use a fuse that you got to open up the subway. I go through that section where you don't have your phone torch. Then you are tasked with finding 2 fuses. Now, the one that he already used to open up the subway in the first place was easy enough to backtrack and get. But I spent an eternity looking for the second one. And it was all because of one tiny little mistake that I'd made. I followed a path that led me through a building and a pair of bloody footprints leading toward the door, which is fairly obvious, right? Go through some creepy ass sewers with this really spooky music, I must say. And after you get out of there, I found myself walking down an alley that had a ladder that you could pick up, which I did. Now, I'm going to walk back through this alley and ask you, the viewer, if you see anywhere obvious to place the ladder. If you manage to guess that I'm meant to place it on this window, congratulations, you win a hug from Simon. I never noticed this window, so I went all the way back to the main, like, hub area, you could say, like the middle part. And I ended up running around in circles, confused out of my fucking mind where I was meant to use the ladder. I tried looking at maps that were around. I tried backtracking to all sorts of different places. Oh, it was a nightmare. I went back to the college. I went back to where Sophie died. Just everywhere. I think my sibling put it best when we had finally figured out where to go. Right, here. You know, I'll show you right now. Look, I came down here. Came here. Went down here. Right, and there was a ladder here, and 2 enemies came out of here, fucking ambushed us. So then I went back. I looked. I thought that this is what you use the ladder on. Well, I tried it. It didn't work. So then I went all the way back to where I was. Turns out that's where you meant to put it. It looks like a normal window. Sure, there's blood on it. But look, does the window look any different from any window we've ever seen, man?
If it hasn't given you any reason to think you're supposed to go in that window, then... Like, is there any, like... I know I missed a bit. Did it say anything about this building, or do you know what this building is?
I don't know. I really don't. There's a save point here.
See, this is my issue, right? Like, if you look at something like Silent Hill, it gives you a direct and clear purpose of which buildings you need to go in and why, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's all of these buildings, you know why you're going into them.
Yeah.
This game has not done that. We don't know what this building is. We don't know why we're going into it. The only reason we know that we need to go into it is because they've put a sign there to suggest that it needs to be gone into. But in terms of actual, like, a person logic, there isn't any logic there.
Because
what
it told me to do is I needed 2 fuses. It said that there's one in the subway. Okay, we went to the subway, got the fuse. It didn't tell me where the other fuse is. It didn't tell me I need to go into this fucking building looking for a fuse.
Yeah, there's nothing to point you to this building other than the fact that they've tried to put a sign on it saying, hey, this window, okay? But in terms of like actual, like, giving the player, like, a critical thought moment to consider where they might need to go for the next fuse or anything like that, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just blood here, put ladder here.
They just put, like, see this ladder here, say it was like transparent and it was like yellow, that would tell me, hey, I need to put a ladder there, not a blood streak coming down the window.
No, I do disagree with that, because that would have been immersion breaking and kind of, like, insulting, I feel like. I do like when games have subtle and, like, in situation tells for where you're supposed to go. But the thing is, I'm talking in terms of, like, fundamental design. We have no reason to even consider this building part of where we need to go. This building is just like a plain yellow rectangle with no signage. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I believe that a game's design should be conducive to the player's logic, right? And that isn't, in my opinion.
I have to say, this whole thing really negatively impacted my experience. There's a part later on where you find a rope with big white text on a box that says, "Cut me." And as amateurish as that is, I would have loved that here if they weren't going to give me any sort of indication that this was a building I could even go into. Maybe if they could, like, see the interior through the door that's right next to it. Kind of like the college entrance. Or maybe you could have, like, a note that next to the ladder where you picked it up from a guy saying that he used it to get into the yellow apartment building. Something like that, you know, that would have been really helpful. And to add insult to injury, after you put these 2 fuses to where they need to go, you have to backtrack again to get them back. It's not that bad since you have to go through a different way to get back, but it really lessens the feel of progression since you're getting new key items. I think it would have been better to give the player something else to progress instead of just using the exact same items again. Finally, I'd like to talk about the maze sequence, as I've seen people have less than favourable things to say about it. It is a nightmare sequence where you fall into this maze and you have to find the exit with only maps on the walls to help you. Oh, and there's these guys moving around that fucking insta-kill you if they touch you. Now, if I was playing this game by myself, since I'm quite a pussy, I probably would have quit when there was the really loud chainsaw sound that plays when you're in a dark room. But if by some miracle I got this far on my own, I know fine well I would have done what Pyrocynical did and just try to blaze through without consulting the map, because I'm very, very intelligent. Likely getting pissed off and rage quitting in the process. But I was not alone. As I said before, my sibling Eddie, who does the drawings for my thumbnails, was there with me. And he, using his incredible genius, took a photo of the map and drew a little route on it with I think it was Microsoft Paint, and then he told me where to go, and I got there on my first try, likely saving me a good half hour or more of frustration. And that's why he's the GOAT. Since Simon can't take any of the maps he sees, I don't really count this as cheating. We, and by we I mean Eddie, we just thought outside the box, man. We're just too smart. So I don't rate this section too badly, but I can definitely see why other people would have been frustrated by it. Alright, that's all I had to say. Thanks for watching this absolute mess of a video. Sorry it took so long to come out, just had some personal shite going on. Shit kept getting in the way type shit. I know this wasn't a big deep dive on everything, but you know, that's all been done before. I just wanted to go over all my thoughts on the game, that sort of thing. Hey, I'll be off now. See yous whenever.